Good afternoon everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for this educational InfoAsset webinar introducing InfoAsset Online. My name is Rajan Sanhotra and I'm part of the marketing team here in the InfoAsset UK office. This webinar forms part of the global launch of InfoAsset, which we introduced to the world in November. The InfoAsset family represents the next generation of InfoAsset's asset management solutions and are the natural evolution of our acclaimed InfoNet software. Today we will focus on the brand new product within the family, InfoAsset Online. So, a little bit about InfoAsset, who may not be familiar with us. We have a long history of empowering water professionals around the world to create, manage and maintain water services. We are the global leader in water infrastructure data analytics software, providing an enduring platform for customer success. Our intention is to make sure that in your work you can design, model, review and manage with confidence. This also means that we strive to provide excellent customer service and support, and that we offer continuing education opportunities like these for yourselves in our industry. InfoAsset offers a library of software programs for water, sewer and storm modeling, drainage and stormwater design, as well as a comprehensive asset performance management system, a part of which you will see today. Now, on with our presentation. I'd like to introduce our presenter. Tony Andrews has spent his entire career spanning 30 years working in the water sector in the UK and USA. Tony graduated as a geologist in the mid-1980s and has since then been working in a research consultancy or software services role in hydrology, GIS, hydraulic modelling and asset management. He began his career as a hydrologist at the UK's Institute of Hydrology, now called the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, moving from there to Esri UK, where he began owning his GIS skills, as a consultant, and then as the manager of the GIS group at Water Research Centre in Swindon. Tony found his way to InfoAsset in 1999 when the company was called Wallingford Software. He was Director of Technical Services for 10 years, where he developed his current interest in the application of technology for asset management. Leaving Wallingford, Tony joined Bentley Systems as their solution executive for water and wastewater consulting with global design firms, contractors and owners seeking improvements in designing, building and operating water and wastewater infrastructure and non-infrastructure assets. Then, in the January 2018, Tony returned to InfoAsset as our Global Product Manager for Asset Management. Evidently, Tony is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to today's topic, asset management. So, thank you for joining us again today. Tony, take it away.
So, thanks, Rajan. So, Tony Andrews at InfoAsset. I've got a polling question to start with. If you could please answer, are you an InfoNet user or InfoAsset Manager user? Yeah, thank you for completing that question. It looks like we have around 3/4 are not InfoAsset Manager users, and maybe 1/4 to 1/3 that are, which is great because I'm going to give a brief introduction to InfoAsset, the new branding for the InfoNet product, with some slides, and discuss a little bit about the importance of data management, and then we'll move on to a live software demonstration of InfoAsset Online, this new product offering. So thank you for completing that poll. So at InfoAsset, what we tried to come up with was a mission statement for our asset management solutions, built around this new branding called InfoAsset. And we like to think that using our software, our customers, our users are able to defend and justify any decisions that they make in terms of doing the right thing on the right asset for the right reason at the right time at the minimal cost and minimal risk to the organization, whilst at the same time achieving an agreed level of service to all stakeholders. And those stakeholders obviously can be customers, utility customers, they can be regulators, for example. So that's our mission statement for InfoAsset. InfoAsset is a rebrand of our previous products, typically what we call the workgroup server products, InfoNet Mobile and InfoNet Viewer. So this is a rebranding, and that was carried out in November 2018. And we changed the version number for those of you who are familiar with the InfoNet products. We've moved away from the 19.5, which would have been the obvious upgrade number, to this new version type number, incorporating the year and a .1 release. And as I say, the rebranding is InfoAsset. So let me go through what that rebranding looks like. So previous product name on the left-hand side with the rebrand in the middle column and a brief description of what these products can deliver. So the previous product name, InfoMaster, which is built around an ArcGIS platform, has been rebranded as InfoAsset Planner. And that is a tool to do risk-based capital planning. InfoNet Desktop has now been rebranded as InfoAsset Manager, and this is the solution for carrying out all types of day-to-day asset management type of workflows. InfoNet Viewer has been rebranded InfoAsset Viewer, and that's the read-only equivalent of the InfoAsset Manager desktop product. InfoNet Mobile has been rebranded to InfoAsset Mobile, and that's obviously our field-based asset management solution for scheduling and dispatching and completing work in the field. And finally, and this is the subject of this webinar, is InfoAsset Online. This is a brand new product that we're offering to the market. This is a web-enabled asset information management system based on web browser technology. So the good news to all of our existing InfoNet users is this is basically a name change, simply a name change. There's no impact on licensing, there's no impact on costs, there's no impact on your database. Everything, if you've got integrated applications such as InfoNet Exchange scripts linking to ArcGIS, for example, there should be no impact on those. So I hope that's a reassurance to all our existing InfoNet users. Again, there's no impact again on InfoNet Mobile users or InfoNet Viewer. And of course, what we're delivering as part of this rebrand is this new web-based application, InfoAsset Online. So we're excited about this because we have a brand new name, a brand new logo. We feel that there's much better alignment between the products, all sort of under the same umbrella of a single brand. And we hope that there's less confusion moving forwards. So how do all these applications, these products fit together? So those of you that are unfamiliar with the asset management solution at Innovise, I'm going to explain very briefly where we position them. So showing on the slide are the three products, InfoAsset Manager, InfoAsset Mobile, and InfoAsset Online, all connected to the same Innovise Workgroup server and database. So this is a single database that serves data to these applications. And this is where our users carry out the sort of day-to-day asset management type activities, whether it's scheduling or work, for field, whether it's doing analytics, doing data quality control and checks, importing CCTV inspection data, all of that sort of day-to-day operational types of workflows. Connected to the same Innovise Workgroup server and database is the hydraulic modeling solution from Innovise InfoWorks ICM. Now, because the InfoAsset products are so tightly integrated with InfoWorks ICM, it's very simple for us to share data, certainly from InfoAsset Manager, to build hydraulic models and to verify hydraulic models and calibrate them. So sharing and consuming data from InfoAsset Manager, not just asset data and information, but also condition data like CCTV inspections, performance information, where we have clusters of incidents like flooding, basement incidents, or bursts on water mains, for example. All that data can be consumed and shared by InfoWorks ICM. Connected to the same Innovise Workgroup server through an application programming interface is InfoAsset Planner. InfoAsset Planner is built on top of an ArcGIS platform, and what that brings to our asset management solution is a risk-based decision support, an analytical tool for carrying out capital maintenance planning and budgeting. So this is where we're going to prioritize work based upon risk, the probability and consequence of failure, the longevity of assets based on deterioration profiles that are calculated using InfoAsset Planner, as well as providing a decision-based tool for recommending rehabilitation planning, whether it's, for example, cure in place or continue to inspect or to leave alone. Now, InfoAsset Planner is linked to the workgroup database, so it can pull in asset information, inspections, failure records and incidents from InfoAsset Manager to then carry out the analytics. The output from InfoAsset Planner are work tasks or work orders, which then are created in InfoAsset Manager and then obviously scheduled and dispatched into the field through InfoAsset Mobile. And finally, on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see at the corporate GIS, where we have tools, obviously, to connect into the GIS, which may be the preferred source of the asset information, which obviously InfoAsset Manager can consume and InfoAsset Planner can consume. And we can also then push results from InfoAsset Planner or condition data from InfoAsset Manager to update the GIS, whatever type of GIS you have, whether it's an Esri-based solution or MapInfo or any of the other types of GIS. So I have another polling question to ask at this stage, if you'd be so kind. Okay, thank you for completing that poll. It's interesting that the majority, in actual fact, are requiring access to asset data less than 10% of the time. It may be that quite a few of you are consultants, possibly, and are not asset owners. But encouragingly, quite a few of you need to access asset data more than 75% of the time. So thank you again for completing that poll. Yeah, so I'd just like to throw this slide up just to raise some thoughts in your mind as this presentation proceeds. And it's relating to asset-centric information management and how you store, how you manage, how you retrieve, view, query asset data. And I'm not just talking about the sort of typical information you'd have in an asset register, that being the sort of the pipes, the manholes, the fittings, the meters, but all the associated data that sort of describes, if you like, the biography of an asset over time. So this will include current, historic and future asset condition data, such as CCTV, pipe sampling, for example, or drop tests and that type of thing. Again, current and historic asset performance information, so that relates to incident records. Yeah, there could be bursts on a water network or collapses on a sewer pipe, for example. And also the association of intervention records, work orders that may be generated in InfoAsset Manager or from your own CMMS third-party system. But all this information we'd like to hold against the asset. So this information management system becomes what I call asset-centric rather than work-centric or time-centric. And what that gives us is this ability to drill into the biography or the history, if you like, or the health history of an asset over time. And I think we're pretty unique in delivering with InfoAsset Manager and now InfoAsset Online the ability to, to sort of view the biography, if you like, of asset information. And that gives you lots of valuable information then in order to to schedule budgets, to understand the performance of and effectiveness of operations and maintenance activities and field crews, for example, and to look at historic costs in the context of how successful the work was. So let's think about what type of information and data challenges that you might typically encounter, in terms of asset information management. So think about the type of data that you want to be able to store, not just the physical assets and those associated operations and maintenance activities, but there's databases, there's PDF, there's unstructured data, photographs, videos, and so on. What happens to the data? Where does it get stored? And what type of infrastructure are you operating? Are you able to look at the provenance of that data over time? Are you able to audit and check the data? And then you think about who actually maintains the data in an organization. And I've listed, only 4 here, but clearly there'll be more than just the GIS or work management systems or CCTV inspection programs. Where does the data come from? Water utilities are carrying out lots of different types of assessments and inspections, doing lots of different types of projects on their assets. How do you then consume that data? How do you store that data? What is the velocity of that data coming into the asset information system? And then, of course, maintaining the data. The challenge is that you have to possibly maintain the data in different formats, whether it's in a relational database management system like Oracle, or in an Access database, or Excel spreadsheets, or in a GIS. How do you assure the quality control of that data? And finally, obviously the most important is then who actually then uses the data. Is the data fit for purpose? What is the quality of that data? Are you sure that you're using the most up-to-date information and data relating to your assets? And this data can come from lots of different sources across the enterprise. And we call this obviously data silos or islands of data. So with an acceptable asset information management system, we're trying to break down the barriers, if you like, to be able to get quick access and efficient access to crucial data and information, for your role. So I have another polling question for you to contribute towards. Interesting. Again, the majority of you have less need to access condition survey and inspection data. Although, in the other categories, we're seeing as equal amount of people require access to condition and survey data. So that's encouraging, because obviously the presentation moving forward and the demonstration will focus on how easy it is using InfoAsset Online, to get access to that data and information. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Well, now I'm introducing InfoAsset Online. Quite simply, it's a web-based application that leverages data and information that's held in InfoAsset Manager. So the first point, I guess, is that InfoAsset Online, InfoAsset Manager, is a prerequisite to InfoAsset Online. So anybody calls up Innovise and says, I want to buy InfoAsset Online, will have to already be an InfoAsset Manager user. Because InfoAsset Online is a read-only view, query and report access to the InfoAsset Manager data. So InfoAsset Online supports water, wastewater and user-defined assets, so non-water and wastewater assets, like, for example, gas, electric, roads, for example. As I said, it's a simplified web browser user interface. What we're trying to provide here is a simplified tool for non-technical users or users who don't have access to InfoAsset Manager. The user interface is configurable based on role or persona or the type of project or the department that you work in. And InfoAsset Online is designed to give equal rights and access to all of that data that's present in the InfoAsset Manager database. InfoAsset Online publishes in a live way automatically any additions and changes to the InfoMaster database. So any changes made on the network, for example, any deletes or additions of assets or new inspections that are imported, will be published automatically online in the web browser. So all of this gives added value, if you like, to your InfoAsset Manager data, because now you're exposing all of that data and information across the enterprise. There are lots of different ways of viewing the data in InfoAsset Online, which we'll touch on in the online demonstration in a few minutes. All users and permissions and roles that are set in InfoAsset Manager are inherited online. So what that means is the administrator of the system can restrict access to particular users to do particular things in the user interface. The logins are based on Active Windows directory, and there's an integrated help provided as part of the solution. Okay, so we'll move on to the demonstration of the software. I'm going to be demonstrating mostly InfoAsset Online, but inevitably I'll need to move over at some point to InfoAsset Manager too. Okay, so I'm just switched over to the InfoAsset Online application. We'll just wait until that loads so everybody can see it. Okay, great. So InfoAsset Online. So as you can see, this is a web browser application. It's supported on all web browsers, so Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and of course it's also then supported on the different types of devices that you'll use to connect to the system. So obviously I'm showing this via a Windows desktop application, but you could be using a tablet, an Android tablet. You could be using your phone to access, as long as obviously you have connection to the internet, whether it's in your office or if you're in the field. As I said, it's read-only, so there's no editing that can be done in InfoAsset Online. It's basically publishing data that comes from InfoAsset Manager. And I hope that you'll see as I progress through the demonstration that we've designed it to be as user-friendly and as simple as possible without cluttering it with buttons and tools, right? So we've basically condensed what is some complex workflows actually into a simplified user interface. There are different types of views in the application. Obviously I'm showing the map view here, but we'll see different panels appearing, showing different aspects of the data as I progress through the software. So let's focus first on the map. So I've just expanded the mapping view, so I've maximized the field of view, and I'm showing what we call the geo plan. And of course in the background you can see there is a web service. That's a Bing web service. So we've connected to the Bing map service, and we're showing background maps. We're also then, you can see, publishing the InfoAsset Manager assets. So we're seeing pipes and manholes with flow direction arrows. We have tools to zoom in, obviously, and tools to zoom out. There's a tool to fit the geoplan to the entire extent of the network in question. There's a tool to center on the location. So obviously I'm talking to you from Wallingford, Howbury Park in South Oxfordshire in the UK. But of course, if you're in the field with this application and you clicked on the center on my location, that would take you to where you're based in the field. Also supported are the mouse wheel function to zoom in and zoom out. And obviously if you're on a tablet device that supports touchscreen, you can pinch, you can use the pinch and you know, and page with your finger type of operation. Okay, so the map is showing assets and now as I said in the PowerPoint presentation, we want to actually publish much more than just asset information. This is much more than just a web-based GIS or a web tool to view asset register. What we're going to show also is the ability to publish the maintenance type of information and incident types of information. So we can do that through what we call themes, where the themes are configured in InfoAsset Manager. So I can easily, very quickly switch from my view of assets to show, for example, incidents. So these are the incidents that are happening on the network. So as I zoom in, you can see the incidents start to appear. So in this case, we have a flooding incident that I've selected. Equally, I can switch to inspections. So you can see there's a yellow line running down the pipe showing the CCTV inspection. And again, I can switch to work tasks and show work tasks. So these are pipe cleans or pipe repairs, manhole repairs, and that type of thing. So very quickly and very simply, I can change the map to show whatever type of information that I'm interested in. So when I select an asset, and a particular asset for viewing, I'm just using the mouse cursor. There's no extra tool. As I said, we're trying to limit the number of tools available to make this as simple as possible. So I've selected a pipe in the geoplan, and you can see on the right-hand side the pipe property page. Now, InfoAsset Manager comes with an enormous feature class library and enormous data schema for different types of assets. So on the right-hand side, we can configure that property panel to show a limited amount of information that we so wish. So in this case, we're showing the definition of the pipe, so the upstream node ID and the downstream node ID. But I can equally move to the page that shows the dimensions of the pipe, and I can look at the information that describes the condition of the pipe. You'll also notice, I hope, below the geoplan, there are these oblong shapes describing the types of data and information that is associated to the pipe. And this is the asset-centric aspect that I was discussing in the PowerPoint originally. So for this case, for this pipe, we can see that there are 13 CCTV inspections, historic inspections. There are 5 monitoring surveys. There are 12 pipe cleans that have been carried out on this pipe over time. There are 2 pipe repairs. There are 8 connected customer properties, and there have been 2 smoke tests carried out. So there's been a lot of interest in this pipe during its lifetime. And we can very quickly switch to interrogate the CCTV records for this pipe, for example. So I clicked on the CCTV selection oblong, and you can see the list of CCTV inspections. Anything that's green denotes that it's the most current or the most recent CCTV inspection. So clicking on one of those, it opens again on the right-hand side the property panel that shows the information pertaining to that CCTV inspection. And again, there are lots of pages of data and information that can be hidden. Can be configured and hidden from the end user. What you're also seeing are these 2-digit codes, BF in this case, with an orange color. They're the flags that are also carried across, the data flags that are carried across from InfoAsset Manager. So they're getting published on the property page as well. Okay. So I hope that's clear. Selecting the asset would then provide you with the ability to interrogate the biography of that asset, looking at all the different types of inspections, incidents, interventions, and customer data that has been active over time. Okay, so that's what we call the single object chooser. What I'm going to show now is the ability to select multiple objects at the same time rather than single objects. And we can do that in 2 ways. We can carry out a trace of the network to select the assets, or we can run what we call filters. So I'm going to show you the trace tool first. So having selected a pipe asset, I can then from the property page carry out a network trace either upstream or downstream. So if I carry out an upstream trace, that then goes from that pipe and traces upstream and then presents in the same area of the property panel the multiple selections. And here you can see there are 462 items that have been selected, and I can page through each of those items. And then ultimately, at some point, select, say, a pipe from that multiple selection. Having selected that pipe, that then becomes the active object below the geoplan again, which then provides me access to associated CCTV data in this case. And I can switch back to the property panel to show that CCTV data, or the monitoring survey, or the smoke test. And then I can switch back to the original multiple selection grid and then choose a different asset to interrogate. So if I just page through to another pipe, selecting the pipe asset in the multiple selection grid highlights the location of that pipe in the geoplan, and then I can zoom to that location in order to take a closer look. So on this is what we call the multiple selection grid. The second way to carry out multiple selections is to run what we call filters, or for those of you that are InfoAsset Manager or InfoAsset InfoNet users, are SQLs, structured query language. We've called them filters. We don't like to use the acronym because that's confusing to most non-technical users. But suffice to say, any SQL that is created by experts using InfoAsset Manager can then be published and made available to non-technical users using the web application. So again, I've got a list of filters that I've published in InfoAsset Online from InfoAsset Manager, and maybe I want to go and look at pipes that have a condition that's greater than or equal to 4. So running that query, you can now see in the geoplan some of these pipes are highlighted in red. And then of course on the right hand side we can see that there's a multiple selection created. And again, using the same method, we can then select the pipe of interest, which shows us all of the associated data and information related to that asset. Okay, so we'll move away from these multiple selections and we'll move into CCTV inspection management. So CCTV inspection data management is a particular headache of most utilities. Data is provided in an access database or in an XML schema with videos and images, and that data then gets sort of stored on different servers and gets lost, right? So what we're trying to achieve with InfoAsset Manager and Online is the ability to manage all that data centrally in one system based around the asset of interest. So again, I'm selecting a pipe asset in this case, and I'm going to navigate to a CCTV inspection. And then below in the CCTV inspection panel, when it's loaded, we can view in 3 dimensions the pipe view, and we can see the associated assets. The associated defects for that CCTV inspection. Okay, so in the top we can see the 3D pipe view with all of the circumferential defects, the point defects showing located. We can very quickly spin the 3D pipe view to bring those point assets that are hidden on the other side of the pipe to the forefront. The color coding denotes the severity of the asset, which is effectively a theme. So you can see that those colors are also reflected in the detailed grid below, and we can then select an asset, for example, this circumferential crack in the grid, which then jumps to the location of the defect in the 3D pipe view, and also jumps to the location on the video. So again, if I click on the 7.07 distance defect, which is cracked circumferential, it jumps to the location, the relevant location on the video. So these videos are being streamed across the internet. They're stored as attachments currently in InfoAsset Manager, and these videos can be replayed, and we can view them in full screen mode. What you're also seeing in the 3D pipe view are continuous defects along the bottom of the pipe, and we can then configure the view by only showing, for example, structural defects with observations. We can filter by the different types of grade. So we only want to show grade 5s, and there are 5 of those in this CCTV inspection. And then of course we can zoom in and zoom out. So this view, this panel is configured specifically for viewing pipeline condition data and replaying movies. What we can also do is we can show these defects in a long section profile view. So if I was to select a pipe again in the geoplan and choose to add that pipe to the long section profile, and I'm going to maximize that screen. We can actually see the defects located along the pipes in 3D profile view. And again, we can choose to switch off labels. We can choose to show all defects for that pipe over time, or just the current defects. And again, we can filter according to the severity of the defect. But also we can then add to the long section profile by clicking on other pipes that are connected and adding them to the profile view. So gradually building a more comprehensive run of pipes in the long section view. And then again, if I was to select the pipe in the long section profile, that will then open up the CCTV inspection for that pipe that I selected in the CCTV inspection panel. Okay, so as I said at the beginning of the presentation, this tool is read-only, so you can't edit, you can't add any data in InfoAsset Online. All of that is carried out using InfoAsset Manager. So what I'm going to do now is show you a couple of workflows in adding new data, typically from GPS or from manhole surveys. So I'm going to switch on the theme that shows inspections. And I'm going to navigate quickly using the search tool to an asset that I'm interested in. Just having trouble locating it. Give me one moment. Yep, sorry about that. Finally, I found the node that I'm interested in, the manhole that I'm interested in, and it's this node here in at 3102 Garst Cabin Drive. So I'll zoom to that location, and what you're seeing here are manhole surveys associated to the manholes. They're the concentric circles, and also a GPS survey at this location here. Right, so what I'm going to do now is jump over quickly to InfoAsset Manager, and I'm going to zoom to that location. What I'm going to do now is update the location of this manhole based upon a GPS, this GPS survey. So if we quickly look at that GPS survey in InfoAsset Manager, we can see we have a new location for it, and this is when the survey was carried out on the 13th of December 2018. So selecting this GPS survey, I'm now going to use a tool to update the location of the manhole based upon the GPS. And now you can see that the manhole has moved to the new location. That's defined by the GPS, but it's left behind the manhole survey, the original manhole survey. So now committing to the database, this then publishes the results to InfoAsset Online. And now you can see that the manhole has changed to the new GPS location and the original manhole survey has been left behind. One more workflow that I would like to show you is importing from what we call snapshot files. Imagine now that we've got a new design, a new area of the network, new pipes and new manholes that have been mapped using a manhole survey method. So I'm going to import the results of that manhole survey using a snapshot file. Right, so here we can see the manhole surveys, these concentric circles, these open circles. These are manhole surveys. And I'm going to now select those and then update the wastewater network based upon those manhole surveys. And again, we have a tool, just like we did with update from GPS. We can update from manhole surveys. So from those manhole surveys, we've now created the manholes themselves and the associated pipes. So again, if I want to publish the results of that manhole survey update, I'll save it to the database, and then if I move back over to InfoAsset Online, we can see almost instantaneously those new assets being published on the web browser. And again, if I select one of these manholes, these newly created manholes, we can then see that there is actually, on this node, there is a manhole survey, and that's the manhole survey that I just used to update the asset. So I've got another poll question for you, if you'd be so kind. Again, thank you for your patience and thank you for completing the poll. Very interesting. Quite a few of you are saying that software is actually too complicated or you don't get access to a license, which is very encouraging for InfoAsset Online. Obviously, the way that we're licensing InfoAsset Online is from a client web browser. So as long as you have enough client licenses, you don't need to install software. You can just launch your web browser and connect instantaneously to that data. Quite a few of you are saying that information and data is inaccessible, or because it's spread across your organization, or it's too time consuming to get to the data. I hope you can see that with the combination of InfoAsset Manager sort of acting as the advanced type of asset register, if you like, by which I mean not just the asset information, but all the inspections and incidents and interventions, which then gets published on InfoAsset Online. It's very simple then to locate and query and report on that data. So no longer having to sort of go find the right person to find the video for a CCTV record that you have for a particular pipe that you might have to be doing some intervention work on. So again, thank you very much for sharing your insights into the challenges that you have in locating and getting access to data and information. Thank you very much for your questions. Really appreciate your interest. So the first question is, what is the meaning of GIS and ICM? So obviously GIS is Geographic Information System. So typically a sort of desktop applications, although many of them are moving over to web-based systems that manages the geometry and the associated attribution about those assets. And of course GIS isn't just specific to water and wastewater networks. In our line of work it can be used across all different types of industries. So it's basically the geometric mapping and modeling of any type of data that has a geographic reference. And ICM, it's InfoWorks. ICM is the hydraulic modeling system that InnoVises provides for both sanitary sewer and stormwater systems in an integrated catchment modelling application that also can include rivers. So it's a fully integrated catchment modelling system to simulate hydraulic behaviour in pipes and above the ground and in rivers and channels and so on. So the second question, security, it's a good question about the security of data that's hosted in InfoAsset Online. Now, of course, we are not as such offering a SaaS solution, a hosted SaaS solution. That's software as a service solution. So we're recommending this to be on-premise inside your own firewall at this stage. Although watch this space for future developments from Innovice. But yes, cybersecurity, of course, is a major concern. So obviously, your Info Manager database will be hosted inside your firewall, as it were, inside your network, and then the web service that connects InfoAsset Online to that database, that the server that hosts that will also then be obviously on-premise at this stage. But of course you could, if you wanted to, put all of this in the cloud, but you'll be hosting that yourselves. As I say, Innovize at this stage does not support a business for hosting SaaS services, right, in the cloud. So thank you for that question. Which organizations currently use InfoAsset? A very good question, thank you for that. We have water utilities using InfoAsset Manager, InfoAsset Mobile, for their day-to-day operations and maintenance activities, to keep the utility ticking over, as it were. And then we have utilities who have their own computerized maintenance management system from a third party or from other vendors that don't need that work management capability that InfoAsset Manager brings, but nonetheless still uses InfoAsset to manage their CCTV inspection data and their manhole surveys, for example, and to do valve turning, valve exercising on water distribution networks. So a wide variety of uses in utilities. So it could be across the whole utility or in departments that have specific projects. But we also have consultants using InfoAsset Manager and InfoAsset Mobile to do data quality control, to do data analytics, to provide quality controlled, verified data and information to build hydraulic models, for example. And local authorities are also in the UK are using InfoAsset Manager with mobile to carry out inspections, for example, on flood devices, flood defense systems, for example, for mapping sustainable urban drainage areas, and so on. So thank you for that question. Moving on swiftly, can you log a mixture of stormwater, sewer and utility data? So yes, InfoAsset Manager can be extended beyond water and wastewater network assets. So you can just like a traditional GIS, you can increase the number of feature classes. So, for example, you can have gas pipes, high voltage cables, electricity. You can store and manage and do inspections on roads, for example, or parks or street lamps. Yeah. So it's completely open to whatever type of asset that you're interested in, and it can even be used and extended to manage and model plant assets, either those that are part of the network, such as CSOs or pump stations, for example, with pumps, or indeed larger plant assets like treatment plants, for example. So thank you very much for that question. Is the CCTV 3D view automatically created from WinCAN? No. What we do is provide import tools to import data that's created in WinCAN in the field. So typically in the UK that would be either Access Database or it would be an XML according to the the SRM, the MSCC 4 or 5 CCTV standard. So we have very comprehensive tools for importing all types of CCTV inspection data, whether it comes from WinCAN or PipeLogix or Granite XP, all these different types of third-party systems. And indeed, we can consume a CCTV inspection data that's collected using InfoAsset Mobile in the field. So InfoAsset Manager is the tool to import that data and manage that data, which then gets published online. And the 3D view is then published automatically based upon the measurements, the distance measurements, the type of defect that's been recorded, and so on. So thank you for that question. Is all the data stored for clients online with unlimited storage? So we haven't come across a customer yet who has seriously challenged the InfoAsset Manager workgroup database. Obviously, the storage will be the responsibility of your organization on premise. As I said before, we don't offer a hosting service in the cloud, and we haven't really come across any limitations at the moment. And we have some very large water companies that are actually storing their asset data and tens of thousands of CCTV inspection records and manhole surveys and all sorts of inspections in the database. So again, thank you for that question. Yeah, I do apologize. Somebody's asked, can you change the units in InfoAsset Manager and InfoAsset Online? Yes, you can. I was showing a data set from a different part of the world, which is why you were seeing inches. So that was a very good spot. But yes, it's very simple to change to metric units and switch back if you're a consultant, for example, working in a different part of the world to imperial units or non-metric units. So thank you for pointing that out. Yep, so photos uploading from the field. If you're using InfoAsset Mobile, those photos are automatically updated from the field once you've taken the photograph, of course, and you have connectivity over the over the internet, as it were, in the field. So they get automatically updated and pushed into the InfoAsset Manager database. So there's no sort of transferring of files with devices or USB sticks, for example. It's completely automated. If you're not using InfoAsset Mobile and you have the photographs on our hard drive, then again, in InfoAsset Manager, we have very powerful tool. It's called the Open Data Import Center, for those of you who are familiar, that can be used to import those images into to associate to any pipe asset, for example, or manhole, or any type of inspection like a manhole survey. How can I search back through as-built records for an asset? So that's quite a long question to answer, and it's sort of is stepping on the whole subject of BIM. Obviously, InfoAsset Manager is more concerned with the as-operated state of the network. So we're using inspections and surveys and digitizing tools to update the as operated or as maintained. So if there's new, fresh data, network data, say there's new manholes and pipes from a development, then obviously, again, we have tools to be able to import that data, whether it be a shapefile format or in a geodatabase or a MapInfo tab file, CSV, SQL Server Spatial, a whole bunch of different types of formats that we can use, including DWG and DXF, the CAD formats. This tool in InfoAsset Manager can be used to import that as-built data and indeed update existing records, based on markups, for example. Yeah, training on InfoAsset Online. Thank you for that question. We'll be contacting you to discuss if you're interested in further training on InfoAsset Manager and InfoAsset Online. So thank you for that question. And I think that is the last question in a long list. If we haven't dealt with any of them at this stage, we'll endeavour to get back to you. We know who's asked the question, so we can come back.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Tony. A very comprehensive set of questions and answers, and like you said, we will get back to any that we were unable to address. And thank you very much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.